Well, let's take a look at this little exercise we have. Shouldn't take us too long. Estimate the percent depreciated. Okay, so this actually is a fairly useful little exercise. It's if we know what to do, it's somewhat easy. But if we don't know what to do, it's not as easy, I suppose. And also, there are a couple little hooks in here. And we can get something out of the information. So let's see what we've got. The property, plant, and equipment footnote from the Deere & Company balance sheet follows. Property and depreciation. Okay, a summary of property and equipment at October 28th in millions is as follows. 2018. Okay, and it says during the year, the company reported $754 million of depreciation expense. All right. And then they say to estimate the percent depreciated of Deere's depreciable assets, and then how would you interpret this figure? Well, one thing that we want to make sure we understand is that this $754 million is not going to necessarily be part of the answer, but we can consider it. So this is evidently a fairly large company, and so if we were to try to take this $754 million, which is in real dollars depreciation expense, non-cash expense, and compare it to the amount of accumulated depreciation that we have, we kind of have to understand how these figures are presented here. Now it says that it's in millions, so what does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to take 7095 and we're going to add some zeros to it. And we're going to be going for a little while. Okay. So we added 6 zeros to this figure, and we got total accumulated depreciation that's pretty darn high. Now, do we actually need to make that conversion to answer this question? Well, yes and no. It says estimate the percent depreciated of Deere's depreciable assets, and then how do you interpret this figure? Well, we can get an estimate. Keep in mind these figures are summarized in rounded form, so it will be an estimate. But to get that percentage, right, we don't have to convert anything into millions or anything like that. We don't have to know that this 7,095 actually is 7,095,000,000. We don't have to know that. But when we consider this figure here, this is going to help us understand what's going on here, hopefully a little bit better. So let's see here now. We have accumulated depreciation on all assets of 7,095. All right, 7,095, because it does say estimate the percent depreciated. Okay, so we're talking about all time, not for the current year. So if we have 7,095 accumulated depreciation, and we have total assets at cost of 12,916. However, we need to subtract from that. Let me move my calculator here. I guess that would help. We need to subtract from that the non-depreciable assets. Land is not depreciated, and construction in progress is, an inventory item. So we're not going to depreciate it either. So 12,916 minus 283 minus 619 equals 12,014. And then we can just say, okay, I keep messing up with the calculator, don't I? 12,014. All right. So let's see what we got here. Okay. So we got 0.590, so about 59%. Okay. How would you interpret this figure? Well, the magic number is usually about 50%, so we're probably dealing with some older assets, and we can actually kind of prove that. If we were to take 754 right here in millions and divide by the accumulated depreciation of 7095, we would come out with a fairly small percentage, 10.6%. All right. So if we realize that, you know, most assets are depreciated at a rate of somewhere between 20 and 40% per year, the fact that we only depreciated our assets, our depreciable assets, by another roughly 10.6%, that we can get some information from that. What that tells us is we have some assets that are clearly fully depreciated already. So our depreciation expense for the year relative to accumulated depreciation is somewhat low. We now have some backup for that because we calculated that our depreciated assets have already been depreciated by 59% of their total value, and the average is going to be about 50%. So what we want to make sure of, this is not terribly high. We certainly don't want it to be 85. What we can say about this figure is essentially that, you know, our assets are starting to get a little bit old, and that is potentially troubling because we might fairly soon start having to replace that equipment, and of course that costs a lot of money. So anyway, 59%, a little bit high, and it could be an indicator that we are going to have to expend large sums of money on some of these depreciable assets in the near future.